Chop sent something really interesting over to me yesterday with respect to the Mavericks and one Patrick Beverley. Now, Patrick Beverley's been moved on to a couple of teams since being traded from the Los Angeles Clippers, went to the Memphis Grizzlies, and now is with the Minnesota Timberwolves after a couple of different trades. But you posed a question I thought was an interesting one. Did the Mavs miss out on Patrick Beverley, which I found very interesting?
I mean, and I don't have a take on this. I don't really care. Patrick Beverley to me is like, he's a good player. He's a pest.
Yeah.
But
you like him if he's on your team.
You need a pest.
Yeah.
You need a pest. And I would have thought they would have wanted kind of a his type of presence. Is this a soft basketball team?
Oh, good question. I won't call them a soft basketball team.
Oh, are they physical?
No.
Well, then they're soft.
Up or down.
Up or down. His ability to get under people's skin and to be able to get him. Let's be fair. Like the Timberwolves give up nothing for him. You'd be able to get him for basically replaceable players. That is something I would have done. I mean, if you were to look at it, they traded. I mean, they got Jarrett Culver and Hernan Gomez. I mean, okay, they're fine, but you could find yourself another pair of those guys. They didn't trade Kawhi Leonard for him. This isn't. The Timberwolves didn't trade Karl Towns for Patrick Beverley.
Right.
Like you could replace those guys. The Mavs could have done the same. Now, I'm not saying I would have done it again. There's contracts involved. There's money. There's all that kind of stuff. But, is Patrick Beverley a player that the Mavs could have used? I would.
Well, here's the thing.
So.
You tried last year to bring some defensive toughness in one Josh Richardson. That didn't necessarily work out. You thought by moving on from Seth Curry, trading his three-point shooting with a decent three-point shooter and a guy who was a better defender that would add some better defense to your team, it just wasn't a fit for Josh Richardson. Of course, he's been moved on to the Boston Celtics. Now, the Mavericks still do have their near $11 million, trade exception that they got from Boston when trading Josh Richardson out to the Celtics. For me, the Mavericks have got to find themselves developing an identity on the defensive end that remains more consistent throughout the season this upcoming year. They're going to be able to score with a lot of teams. They're going to be able to play with pace. They're going to be able to get up and down the floor. Jason Kidd's going to be able to implement some things that I think will increase how this team shares and moves the basketball while still putting points on the board. But where he's going to have to make a difference, him and Sean Sweeney here, the assistant coach for this team, they're going to have to find a better way to play better defense, or at least play more competent defense on a more consistent basis. I don't know necessarily where you get that from, because if you were to look right now at this starting lineup, there really isn't a guy that you look at and say, oh, that's going to be a guy that's going to go out and get stops. Now, you did sign Reggie Bullock. You did sign Sterling Brown, two guys who can defend on the perimeter and shoot the ball from the three-point line. And the good thing about Reggie Bullock is, at 6'6", he's not going to get played off the floor because he can defend and play and defend multiple positions, on the perimeter. Sterling Brown can do similar things. So you've tried to get better on the margins, but at the same time, they're going to have to get better defensively while still not losing the edge on the offensive end, given what they have decided to do from a playmaking standpoint.
I get it. And look, the Fanatics bring it up. If you're going to get a pest, you got to get an enforcer too, to back up the pest.
Yeah,
that's true.
And they tried to do that with James Johnson last year when they brought him in. That didn't work out either. Because I think the Mavericks understood what they had to do from an identity standpoint to get a little bit tougher on the defensive end. They brought in a couple of guys that just simply weren't a fit, and you had to move on from them. So who that becomes for this team going into this year, I don't know. But at least for Bullock and for Brown, those guys give you a better idea that they can play some better defense given their skill sets and what you were able to bring them in to do. But, for the Mavs in terms of their offseason grade right now, and I've said it before, I give them a C+ right now because I thought they got better on the margins based on what they were trying to do. I think you have to look at it relative to what folks thought the Mavs were going to do based on what Mark Cuban said, which is, hey, we need a secondary creator and ball handler to be able to go alongside Luka Doncic, and you didn't necessarily address that this offseason. You got better in certain areas to help strengthen this team, but you didn't address the one area that you said you needed to based on what Cuban said.
Yeah, for me to give them any more than a C plus, and anything in that C grade, they would have had to have gotten better, considerably better. Like that's an improvement. I don't know how much better they are, if they're better at all. Is Jason Kidd a step up from Rick Carlisle as a coach? I don't know. Is Reggie Bullock and Sterling Brown better than, Josh Richardson? For this team, they might be. But Josh is good defensively. That's what he is. He's a defensive player.
Yeah.
He's not an offensive player. So you are going to defensively, you're probably going to get a step down because of Josh. You're going to lose him, but you're going to pick up other guys who are good defensively too. I don't think they're better, air quotes. I think they're about the same. They're just different.